Hi, in this video I would like to point out the paradoxical nature of ethics. Now, I have already done this, but this is just yet another way of formulating it. So generally speaking, the whole ethical idea is to strive and to fight for a better world. A world with more social equality, with less poverty, with more individual freedom, with less war, more peace, less suffering, more happiness, more comfort, and more welfare, etc. You know, all the good stuff, basically. Now, I just want to mention that this is not my morality. This is the morality of the majority of the population. This is what people are aiming for when they are talking straight from their hearts. Their only moral desire is justice. That's the only thing they essentially want. To do what they want to do and to be given the right to do so by a legislative force, such that they can justify their actions. And as long as they are not harming anyone else with their actions, it should work out just fine. So they want a better world for everyone, and at the same time they just want to do what they want to do. Now again, this is not my morality. I consider myself as a neutral observer, and I don't want this argument to be used against me. So I'm saying this because I want to use their own moral argument against themselves. I have nothing to do with this. This is what they have created. They have created their own ethical theories, and now I'm going to show you why they are contradicting themselves. So, in their utopian ethical society, it is not allowed for injustice to take place. Otherwise, they will go on a rampage or something. A world with injustice is an unethical world which cannot be fully justified according to their morality. Yet at the same time, they admit that there is no such thing as perfection. The best we can do is strive and fight for a better world. But we know for a fact that the world will never be perfect. The fact that it isn't and never will be perfect is not a reason to not pursue perfection according to them. In other words, we will always live in a world which is ethically imperfect. And even though we try to approximate ethical perfection, unethical issues will always exist. And this is what they allow to be, and they justify this. And even though they might only be minor unethical issues, if you give these issues just enough time, they will grow and become major issues. And here is why. Basically, we are designed to detect problems. We are designed to fulfill a purpose. We want to tackle problems. We want to solve them, and we want to be rewarded for an act of goodness. That's the part that we enjoy. We want recognition. We want to mean something for the world, and we can only mean something if we can stimulate positivity, if we can do someone a favor such that they can benefit from it. But in order to increase positivity, of course, there first needs to be negativity. Problems such as social inequality needs to exist in order to solve that problem and create positivity as a consequence. Now, in a world where ethics has reached a level near perfection, it wouldn't take very long before someone would create a problem because of this tiny little bit of imperfection. The point is, if all the major unethical problems are solved, we would have more time to figure out minor problems. And if those minor problems are also solved, we would have time to figure out even more minor problems, and so forth. Because what else are we doing here besides trying to solve problems and chasing desires and trying to perfect this world. We want to mean something for the world, and if we can solve problems in order to mean something for the world, we are going to do just that. But if all the major problems are already solved, we will just keep on digging and digging to find a problem and to create one for the sake of having a purpose and to mean something for the world. Now, in a utopian society where all problems are actually completely solved, we would be unable to detect problems. There would be no more need to have an ethical purpose, since ethical perfection has been established in a utopian society. So, there would be no more need to please the world because there is no more negativity to tackle. The only problem here is that positivity can only be established after a negative situation. Negativity is absolutely required to exist in order to establish the positivity that comes along when that negativity is solved. So in a society where everything is solved, the level of positivity cannot be excuse me, the level of positivity cannot be maintained because the level of negativity is zero. We need the bad stuff in life in order to experience the good stuff in life. We all know that. We all know this dualistic principle of life. But what most of us don't realize is that the existence of injustice is required for the existence of justice when that injustice is solved. Now here is the paradox. We want to solve injustice, but we need it just as much for the existence of justice. So if you want justice, you indirectly also want injustice. It's a duality, they need each other to exist. If you justify justice, you also indirectly justify injustice. But if you tell me that you don't justify injustice, you're a hypocrite, because logically you need it. If there was no injustice, you would become meaningless because you can't please anyone anymore. In a perfect world, everybody would be fine all the time. There would be no more need to help anyone because all their problems are already solved. So you can't serve anyone anymore. And in that sense, you can't mean anything anymore for anyone. There is nothing to strive or to fight for. So what's going to happen is the level of positivity is going to drop because positivity by itself, without negativity, is meaningless. Positivity is only meaningful when it alternates with negativity. So face it, if you don't like injustice but you like life, then you are a hypocrite because you need injustice to have justice. Right? Now, me personally, I cannot justify life because of this fact. I don't like injustice. But since injustice is tied together with justice, I must logically also refute justice. I must refute this duality. Life is dualistic, so logically I cannot justify life if I don't justify injustice. And this is the main reason why I support antinatalism and also atheism. This to me is the logical proof that when you are against injustice, you must as well be against justice. So in general, this means that you are against life itself. Not because I don't like it, that would be a subjective point of view, but because I came to the logical conclusion that you can't have one without the other. You either support both justice and injustice, or you refute both of them. So you cannot choose between supporting good or bad. No, you can, but you can choose between supporting good and bad as a whole and not supporting good and bad as a whole, you know? So on one side you can support good and bad. Well, you can. It's inevitable. The only thing you can support is good and bad as a whole simultaneously because they work together always. And so if you refute one of those, you must refute the duality itself. Get it? If you don't like injustice, that means you have to refute the whole of this duality, including justice. So justice and injustice has to go as a whole if you don't like injustice. So if you throw out the duality, what you will end up is non-duality, and that equals the absence of life or death.